Scott Swing Sports Day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back by myself again today. I'm here to do my week 3 of college football predictions and my week 2 of the NFL predictions. So let's get into those right now. First came out Kentucky and Chattanooga Saturday at noon on the SEC Network and ESPN Plus. I will take Kentucky. Kentucky's looking like a very good team this year, so I will take Kentucky for my buddy Terry Jewell. Also, unranked matchup tomorrow: UCF and Louisville tomorrow night.
Nice!
On ESPN. I will happily take UCF. I think UCF knows this is our chance to get into the top 25 with a win here, and I think UCF will find a way to get a road win here over Louisville on tomorrow night. Now into the top 25 games for this weekend. First came out Alabama and Florida in Gainesville. I'm surprised that College Game Day is not here for this game. I'm going to take Alabama on the road. I think Alabama's just got a little bit too much. I think Alabama's got a little too much offense, so I'm going to take Alabama in this game over Florida. Next up, Scott Frost and Nebraska coming in on a 2-game win streak, going into Norman to take on Oklahoma. I will take Oklahoma at home. I think Scott Frost is in for a rough weekend. I will take Oklahoma at home over Nebraska. Next up, New Mexico and Texas A&M should be a good game here. A battle of two teams with undefeated records. I'm gonna go Texas A&M. They moved down a little bit in the rankings last week after that very close win over Colorado last week. I'll take Texas A&M at home in College Station against New Mexico. Next up, Cincinnati and Indiana. Cincinnati's first test of the season before they play UCF in a couple of weeks. I'll take Cincinnati on the road. I think Cincinnati's a much better team than Indiana is. I will take Cincinnati at home over Indiana. Next up, Virginia Tech and West Virginia should be a big game here. I'm kind of surprised to see it, but I'm going to take Vatech +3. I'm actually going to take them on the money line, actually. I'll take Virginia Tech to win this game outright. I think Virginia Tech's getting disrespected by the ESPN and by the committee with a 2-0 record. I'll take Virginia Tech on the road to get it done in Morgantown against West Virginia. Next up, Coastal Carolina and Buffalo. I will take Coastal Carolina on the road. They look very, very good. Big win over Kansas last week for Coastal. I will take Coastal Carolina to get it done on the road against Buffalo. Next up, Miami and Michigan State should be a good game here. I told my buddy JT Dangerously, this is my upset pick of the week. I will take Michigan State on the road to get it done against Miami. I have not seen Miami look good all season. They struggled against App State last week. So I will take Michigan State on the road to pull off the huge upset over Miami. Next up, Northern Illinois and Michigan. Michigan into the top 25 after beating Washington last week. I will take Michigan at home in the Big House. I think Michigan's a much better team than a lot of people think they were going to be this year. So I'll take Michigan over Northern Illinois. Next up, Purdue and Notre Dame. Notre Dame on NBC this week after being on Peacock last week. I'll take the Irish at home. I think Notre Dame's got a big game next week, the next 2 weeks, I believe. So I'll take the Irish to get a big win here over Purdue. Next up, Kent State heading into Iowa City and Kinnick to take on Iowa. Give me Iowa. I think Iowa looked great last week. They looked very impressive the first 2 weeks of the season after beating Indiana 2 weeks ago and then beating Iowa State last week. I will take Iowa at home over Kent State. Next up, Georgia Tech heads in to Clemson, South Carolina to take on Clemson. Clemson's opener in the ACC. I will take Clemson to get a home win here over Georgia Tech. I think Clemson's a much better team than Georgia Tech is. So I'll take Clemson at home over Georgia Tech. Next up, Tulsa and Ohio State should be a good game here. I'll go with Ohio State to rebound after that embarrassing performance they showed last week against Oregon. So I'll take Ohio State at home to keep their slim playoff hopes alive with a win over Tulsa. Next up, Georgia Southern and Arkansas. Arkansas in the top 25 after that win over Texas last week. Give me the Razorbacks. I think Arkansas looks like a very good team right now. So I'm going to take Arkansas at home over Georgia Southern. Next up, the open to SEC play for Georgia as they host Will Muschamp and South Carolina. I will take Georgia at home to get it done over South Carolina. I think Georgia's a much better team. So I'm going to take Georgia over South Carolina and put a loss on Will Muschamp's record to start off the SEC schedule for him. Next up, Stony Brook heading into Eugene to take on Oregon after that huge win last week over Ohio State. I'll take Oregon at home. I think Oregon's a much better team than Stony Brook is, so I'll take Oregon at home over Stony Brook on Saturday. Next up, Virginia and North Carolina. North Carolina looked much better last week. I'll take the Tar Heels at home to get it done over Virginia. I think Sam Howell's going to play much better. He needs to get his draft stock up there a little bit more if he wants to be the first pick in the draft next year. So I'll take North Carolina at home over Virginia. Next up, Tulane and BYU and Ole Miss. I'm going to take Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is a very good team. They beat Louisville a couple weeks ago on Monday night, so I'll take Ole Miss over Tulane here on Saturday in Oxford on ESPN2. Next up, in a top 25 matchup in Provo, Utah, it'll be BYU coming off that big win after finally beating Utah after 8 years. They haven't beaten Utah in like 10 years, and they finally get it done last Saturday. Couldn't really stay up to watch that game. That game was on at like 10:15 at night. Couldn't really stay up to watch that one. It's another 10:15 kickoff for BYU this week as they take on Herm Edwards and ASU. I'm going to go with the Sun Devils on the road. I think ASU is a better team. They got a better coach out there in Herm Edwards. I think he's feeling good about how good he's played this year. So I'll take ASU at home on the road against BYU. Next up, Iowa State and UNLV. I'll take Iowa State to get back on track. They looked a little bit sloppy last week against Iowa, but I think they're going to bounce back. And I think they're the most talented team in the Big 12, but I don't think they're going to make the Big 12 championship game after losing last week to Iowa. So I'm going to take Iowa State to get it done on the road against UNLV. Next up, Fresno State and UCLA. Chip Kelly's got UCLA in the top 25 for the first time, I believe, in his coaching tenure over there in UCLA. I'm going to take UCLA in Pasadena to get it done in the Rose Bowl. I think UCLA's looked very good, especially a couple weeks ago after beating LSU 2 weeks ago. They must not have played last week because that's the only two games I see them having right now. So I'll take UCLA over Fresno. And now the College Game Day game of the week. College Game Day will be there Saturday morning in Happy Valley. It'll be number 22 Auburn heading in to take on number 10 Penn State. I will take Penn State at home. I think this will open the door for UCF to get into the top 25 with Auburn losing. But they might still keep Auburn ahead of us because they're in the SEC. But I'm going to take Penn State at home. I think it's tough to win in Happy Valley in University, especially during a whiteout. So I'm going to take Penn State over Auburn and get a win over Auburn. Now into the NFL games. Weird week last week. A lot of teams I thought were going to be very good this year lost, and a lot of teams I thought were going to be very bad this year won. So we'll see what happens this week. First game of the year, first game of the weekend. The Giants heading into Washington to take on the football team. I'm going to take Washington at home. I think Taylor Heineke will play just well enough this week. I think that defense is good enough to win them this game here. I'll take Washington at home over the Giants. Next up, the Falcons heading into Ray J to take on the Bucs. 12.5-point favorites here.
Bucks!
I'm going to take the Bucs at home to win the game and cover. I think the Falcons looked absolutely horrible last week against the Eagles. I will take the Bucs at home over the Falcons. Next up, the Bengals heading into Chicago to take on the Bears. I'm going to take the Bears at home. I think they need this win. They need to get back on track after looking a little bit rusty last week against the Rams on Sunday night. So I'm going to take the Bears at home over the Bengals. Next up, the Texans heading into First Energy Stadium to take on Baker Mayfield and the Browns. Give me Baker and the Browns. I think the Browns looked very good last week for about 3/4 of the game last week. Fourth quarter came around, and then Patrick Mahomes did what he does, and he came back to win that game. But I think the Browns are going to be very upset after letting that game get away from them last week. I'm going to take the Browns at home over the Texans. Next up, the Rams and Colts. Big game here. I'm going to take Jared Goff, Matt Stafford and the Rams to get it done. I think Stafford's going to play well this week. He looked very good last Sunday night against the Bears. So I'm going to take Stafford and the Rams to get it done here on the road in Indy and set up a huge game next week between the Bucs and Rams next Sunday. Probably going to be Joe Buck and Troy Aikman calling that game next Sunday, so we'll see what happens. Next up, Buffalo coming in after that tough loss last week to Pittsburgh as they head into Hard Rock Stadium to take on the Miami Dolphins. 90 degrees estimated for kickoff on Sunday. I'm going to take Josh Allen and the Bills to rebound, though. I think the Bills are a better team than the Dolphins. So I'm going to take Josh Allen and the Bills to get it done here over the Dolphins. Next up, Mac Jones and the Pats heading in to New York to take on the Jets. Give me Mac Jones and the Pats to win this game. I think Mac Jones is going to play well this week. He looked pretty good last week against the Dolphins. But I think he'll play a little bit better this week and get a win here against Zach Wilson and the Jets. Next up, Jimmy G and the Niners heading in to Philly to take on the Eagles. Give me the Niners on the road. I think Jimmy G will play better this week play well again this week. Give me Jimmy G and the Niners to get a road win in Philly against Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. Next up, Derek Carr and the Raiders coming off that very impressive Monday night win over the Ravens. Couldn't really stay up to watch overtime because I had to work on Tuesday. But they headed into Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Give me the Steelers. I think they looked very impressive last Sunday against the Bills. I will take Big Ben, Najee Harris, Juju Smith-Schuster, and the Steelers to get it done here at home. I think in Heinz Field it should be no problem here. I'll take the Steelers over the Raiders. Next up, the flavor of the week last week, famous Jameis Winston and the Saints heading into Carolina to take on the Panthers. Give me Jameis and the Saints to get another win here. I think Jameis Winston will play well again this week. I think he'll struggle. He's not going to play as well as he did last week. He threw 5 touchdowns last week. I'm going to say he goes for 3 touchdowns and 1 interception this week. I'm going to take the Saints on the road against the Panthers. Next up, the Denver Broncos heading into Jacksonville to take on Trevor Lawrence, Urban Meyer, and the Jags. Give me Teddy Bridgewater and the Broncos to get a road win here. I think the Broncos looked very good last Sunday against the Giants, and the Jaguars looked like a dumpster fire last week against the Texans. I will take the Broncos at home on the road against the Jags. Next up, the Vikings heading into Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Give me Kyler Murray and the red-hot Cardinals to stay hot this week. I think they looked absolutely unbelievable last week against the Titans, and they continue to impress this week. Get another impressive win, and I'll take them to get a win over the Vikings. Next up, the Dallas Cowboys going on the road to take on Justin Herbert and the Chargers. I'm going to go with Dak, Zeke, and the Cowboys to get it done here. I think the Cowboys know they cannot afford to lose this game because normally when you start 0-2, you usually don't make the playoffs. So I'm going to take Dak, Zeke, and the Cowboys to get it done on the road in LA. High-scoring game in SoFi Stadium. Both offenses will look good. I'm going to take the Cowboys over the Chargers. Next up, the Tennessee Titans heading in to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Give me Russell Wilson and Seattle to get it done here at home. I think Russell Wilson will play well this week. I think he looked great last week against Indy, and I think he'll look good again this week. But I expect the Titans to play much better than they did last week. They couldn't get anything going last week against the Titans, against the Cardinals. So I'm going to take the Seahawks at home over the Titans. Next up, Sunday Night Football. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs going into Baltimore to take on Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Give me Mahomes and the Chiefs to get it done here at home, on the road. I think the Chiefs will play much better this week. Defensively, I think they'll look much better than they did last week. And I think the Ravens will still continue to struggle with those injuries, very bad injuries that they have on that team right now. So I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs to get another big road win on the road in Baltimore against the Ravens. And now into Monday Night Football. It'll be Jared Goff and the Lions heading into Lambeau Field to take on a very pissed off Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers after that horrific performance last week on Sunday against the Saints. Stephen A. Smith has been saying all week that was probably Aaron Rodgers' worst performance of his career, and I definitely agree with that. So I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers to get it done here at home in Lambeau Field. Monday Night Football, I think they're going to rebound and bounce back. I think they're going to look much better this week. Give me the Aarons, Rodgers, and Jones to play well this week to get a win here at home against Matt Stafford, against Jared Goff and the Lions. And that will do it for this episode of Scott Sweeney Sports Today, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be back here next week with my Week 4 of college football predictions and my Week 3 of NFL predictions. I apologize for my dog kind of interrupting the video today. I'll see you guys right back here next week on Scott Sweeney Sports. See you later, guys.